So because Jarrett Hoffman is our Division II expert, Jarrett, what should we look for in this slate of games in Division One? Division Two.
Well, just to talk about these games, Virginia Union versus Kentucky State. Felton Huggins for Kentucky State, the head coach of Kentucky State, is entering his second season with that team. Looking to see some improvement from them. Had a losing record last year. Got a really tough first draw in the CIAA champion Virginia Union Panthers, and they're feeling disrespected. They were picked to finish second in the CIAA this season. So they are going to have a motivated Virginia Union squad on their hands, especially a team that is competing against Virginia State in that CIAA North. So tough draw for Kentucky State for sure. Edward Waters and Morehouse. Edward Waters going to dog walk them. No need to talk about that. Winston-Salem State and Bluefield State.
Show the slate, Kendrick. Slow the straight. Show the slate, Kendrick.
Winston-Salem State and Bluefield State. Winston-Salem State, they have Jalen Norris, who was a transfer for Bluefield State. So that's going to be a bit of a homecoming for him. I think he's going to be a very good addition for them. He was a very underrated player for them last year. Winston-Salem State, they have Isaiah Teal, I believe is his name, the quarterback for Winston-Salem State. I think he's going to have a big year this year. Apologies if that's the wrong name. I'm probably thinking of somebody else. But I expect Winston-Salem State to be much better than they have been in years past, and they could potentially test Johnson C. Smith. We'll get to them in a second, and Fayetteville State for the CIAA South title. Benedict and Virginia State. Virginia State, they won their first 7 games last year, looked as dominant as any team in Division II, and then they fell off a cliff, losing to Elizabeth City State, a game they should have won, and then they lost in Virginia Union to completely knock him out of the CIAA championship race. So they're fighting against those expectations. They have Henry Fraser in, I believe, his 3rd season there. And Benedict obviously is trying to rebuild what was lost in the offseason. Obviously, you're entering in Ron Dickinson in place of Chennis Berry. You have a completely different unit here, but there's a lot of guys who are sitting on the sidelines who will now get the opportunity to play. And Chennis Berry has spoke in depth about the amount of talent that he has on his roster and the amount of guys that he could play and they could still be effective. So this is not a Benedict team that believes that they are rebuilding. This is a Benedict team that still believes that they are competitive and they can win a 3rd straight SIAC title. And what better way to test their abilities than against a Virginia State team that many are picking to win a CIAA this year. And then we have Tuskegee and Johnson C. Smith. Johnson C. Smith was one of the most improved teams of Division II football last year. They went from 2-7 in 2022 to 7-4 in 2023, had their best record in a season in about 10 years. Their defense was the star of the show, led by linebacker Bernard Black. And I think that they're going to be just as good this season. I went out on a limb and said that Johnson C. Smith is going to end Fayetteville State's streak of 6 straight CIAA titles, but another team that has a tough first draw in Tuskegee. We all know about Tuskegee's reputation. They are a Division II powerhouse, and they had another great season last year. I believe they were 7-4. They finished just short of clinching a berth in the SIAC championship game, lost to Miles in the final week of the year. So they are in a loaded SIAC championship race. So it behoove them to get out quickly and get a win in this one. And a game that's not on here that I'm looking forward to is Clark Atlanta and Fort Valley State. Clark Atlanta is a team that has not been good in a while. They haven't won in almost 2 years now, but they have a completely new group in there. They welcomed in Teddy Keaton as their head coach, who was the head coach of Allen and led Allen to a 7-3 record last year. And he brings along with him David Wright, the reigning SIAC Player of the Year. He had an incredible season for Allen, and I think that Clark Atlanta is going to be much better than we have seen them in years past. It's going to be a completely different team. But the question is, can they compete in the SIAC? And who better to test that question out than Fort Valley State, another team that was entrenched in that SIAC championship race. They finished that season, I believe, 8-3 last year. Won the inaugural Florida Beach Bowl against Johnson C. Smith. Is a team that just continues to crank out offensive stars, particularly at the running back position. That before it was Emmanuel Wilson, who is now on the 53-man roster for the Green Bay Packers. And now they have Brandon Marshall, who I expect big things out of. Kelvin Durham is still there somehow. You think he was too old to still be there, but now he's still there. So I expect him to have another big season for them. And Fort Valley State will be another team that will be entrenched in that SIAC championship race. Can't think of all the other games off the top of my head, but those are the ones that really stick out to me. If I was to say a game that I am most excited for, I'd probably say Tuskegee and Johnson C. Smith, because I'm looking to see if this was fool's gold for Johnson C. Smith, or if they really are a team that can win the CIAA South. I don't think it was fool's gold. I think they have the talent on the defensive end, and they can win the CIAA South this year and potentially lose to either Virginia State or Virginia Union in the CIAA championship game. But I need to see it, and I think that there's no better team to test that theory out against them for them against Tuskegee. So my pick for the game, the biggest game to watch, is Tuskegee and Johnson Smith.